Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, a historic Indy 500 will have no fans in the stands. We take a deep dive into the 16 Tech Innovation District, and we'll look at the hub's impact on the startup economy, food, community, and more, as well as the more than 2-decade road it has taken to this point. Ice Miller takes a look at race relations in the workplace, and we spotlight the World Food Championships in Indianapolis. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. For the first time in history, there will be no fans in the stands to watch the greatest spectacle in racing. Penske Entertainment Corporation made the tough decision in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. President and CEO Mark Miles joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to break down the decision and its impact.
I know there have been a lot of difficult discussions and conversations the last few weeks. Give us some insight into the tone of those talks and maybe that final domino that fell that led to the decision to go with no fans.
Yeah, I think we just ran out of time. I wouldn't say there was, a final day that where something changed and made the decision for us. As you and I think Indianapolis people know, we've been working for weeks to be in a position to welcome fans back. We spent $15 million to update and improve every part of the facility so fans would see a real difference when they were back at the track. We've spent thousands of hours with our staff and with public health experts and around the world and in the city, working on the best possible way to do it. We feel like we had a plan together that is really a model under the circumstances. And we said all along that we're ready. And the question would be, do the public health metrics, does the situation with COVID in central Indiana allow us to do it? We had almost daily conversations and meetings and discussions with the city public health officials and the state public health officials. They were terrific to work with. And we thought together that there'd probably never be a day when they had to tell us no, or when we wanted to say we want to do it and we're sorry you object. There was always going to be a consensus because we said the data has to speak for itself. Yeah. And that's what happened. We got to this point and there just really it wasn't where we wanted things to be. A
lot of implications, certainly disappointment on the fan side, but also financial implications. In terms of the impact there, can you calculate or give us some perspective on the financial piece of that of the decision?
Well, I would say it's no picnic. You can imagine, fans can imagine how important everything related to attendance is for us. But it was really never about that. We were determined, Roger Penske was determined to continue to improve the facility, to be ready whenever the next opportunity was going to occur, and ultimately to do the right thing. So it's important to us financially. We'll get through it. Yep. It's important to, I think, the hospitality industry and Speedway and in the city and around the state. And it'll certainly be missed from an economic perspective. But now we got to just get on with it and have a great race and look forward to May 30, 2021.
Right. But even before then, early October, the Harvest Grand Prix is still scheduled, as I understand it, right? And at this point, you're looking in early October to potentially run that with fans.
Yeah, so this is a Grand Prix again, and at the moment we're thinking a doubleheader, so we could get 2 races in to make up for what we've missed on the IndyCar Series calendar. So Indianapolis people will know what that looks like, and it's the first weekend in October. The crowd is expected to be smaller. Obviously, everything is smaller than the Indianapolis 500-mile race. So we think it'll work, but again, we'll be ready. Everything will be in place, and then there'll be a kind of game day decision about whether there are any adjustments we have to make based on the healthcare situation.
All right. Mark Miles is the CEO of Penske Entertainment Corporation. Mark, as always, thanks for joining us, especially during this very busy time. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
The $500 million 16 Tech Innovation District project hit a major milestone last week. Officials cut the ribbon on Innovation Building 1, one of the centerpieces of the 50-acre development. 16 Tech Community Corporation President and CEO Bob Coy joined us to talk about the evolution of the project.
Bob, this has been a long time coming. I know you and I have talked on a number of occasions about this project, what it means, what it could mean for Indianapolis and Indiana. As this first building is christened, your thoughts?
Well, it's suddenly the vision and the concept is now a reality. And this beautiful 50-acre site will be open. People will start moving in September. It's coming to life, and we've got really good momentum to build on this first building as well. You have been in the innovation and entrepreneurial space for a long time. You have a very good understanding of what's going on in other parts of the country. Give people an idea. Maybe they've heard of 16 Tech, but they're not fully aware of the potential and the vision here. What is the vision here? What are you trying to create here? Well, what we're trying to create is essentially an innovation community of like-minded people who are committed to innovating in the life sciences, tech, advanced engineering, ag sciences. And it'll be a mix of startup companies up through established corporation who may have their innovation groups here, working closely with academics at IU School of Medicine, Purdue, Notre Dame, other universities. And it'll just be a really, really exciting community of like-minded people who are working on exciting new products and processes for the future. There'll be a lot of things going on here, as you mentioned. Give me an idea of kind of the vibe that you think will exist here in the Riverside neighborhood area, an area that has been challenged economically for a number of years, but now that seems to be about to change. Well, it is changing now. So the vibe within the district will be an urban vibe. We're building on density. We'll have restaurants. We'll have residential apartments here as well as offices. So it'll be a 24/7 environment. But we're also bringing new amenities to this neighborhood, the Riverside neighborhood. For example, the Innovation Hub, which we're calling HQO. It's 104,000 square foot flexible office space, artisan market, makerspace. That building, which is right next door, will have a farmer's market essentially concept in the artisan market, which is bringing food options to a neighborhood that really hasn't had them for a long time. So what we're building here is not just for the district, but also for the neighborhood. And you're looking at an pretty aggressive timeline too. As we were talking earlier, Cortex, a major development in St. Louis, took maybe 15 to 20 years to develop fully out. But you're looking at maybe doing these types of things in about 5 years, right? We are, and we're able to do it because of the broad-based support that we have for this project. As the mayor said, we have support from the city of Indianapolis, we have support from the state, but also from the corporate community and the foundations. And one thing that Indianapolis has that a lot of other communities don't have is a Lilly endowment with $14 or $15 billion in assets. All of that together is enabling us to accelerate this project. What's next? What's going to be key in your view, Bob? I think you touched on that in that collaboration and the support from a number of groups and entities, but what's going to be key in your view to really making 16 Tech a success? Well, what we're doing right now is we're building the stage, right? These are beautiful buildings and lots of construction, roads going in. But what's really important now is the play that will occur on the stage, and it's getting the right actors here. Excellence attracts excellence. So the fact that we have the Indiana Bioscience Research Institute here, IU School of Medicine, the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership and its initiatives attracts people. The Innovation Hub next door, HQO, we plan on having accelerators for starting up high potential tech companies and life science companies, and we'll have some announcements about both of those very soon. Venture capital funds, incubators, corporate innovation support. So it's that mix together that will attract the type of tenants here that we want to have here. And it's going to start happening. It's happening now, but it's going to accelerate in January when the building next door opens up.
16 Tech has been in the works in some form for more than 2 decades. It's faced numerous hurdles, including the 2008 recession and the current global pandemic. Mayor Joe Hogsett joined us to talk about the district's impact on central Indiana's economy and how it will change the city's downtown landscape.
It really represents, I think, Indianapolis's resiliency in difficult and unprecedented times. We are moving forward boldly. Now, you're absolutely right. It's taken us a while to get to this point, but I think that the potential here at 16 Tech, and particularly the positive effects that it has on the Riverside neighborhood and the community here, are really unlimited. And so, even if it takes another 20 years to fully develop, I think Indianapolis, this is a marker that Indianapolis is bold, it's being energetic and creative, and embracing the difficult times in positive and productive ways.
The vision here at 16 Tech, how important is that? People talk about this being a talent initiative and something that will be critical for Indianapolis, not only to keep talent, but importantly to attract people from outside of the city.
Well, economic development in the 21st century, Gary, as you know, is talent retention, talent attraction, and talent development. And so 16 Tech is yet another opportunity for Indianapolis to attract the best and the brightest from all over the country, whether it's in advanced manufacturing, advanced engineering, technology, life sciences, logistics. I mean, in so many ways, this area of our city provides potential for Indianapolis to continue to develop economically well into the future.
Talk about that, the importance of this neighborhood development and the impact here. You know, you've got a lot of activity in many parts of the city, but this area has for many years not been one of those. This has the potential to change that.
Yeah, it does. And in fact, I was so pleased in this morning's announcement that a representative from the Riverside Civic League was here and spoke glowingly about the partnership that the Riverside neighborhood has made with 16 Tech and all of its relevant actors. They see it as a transformative project for their neighborhood. And obviously, a city like Indianapolis is always thoughtful about making sure that there's not displacement, that there's a balance in new investment while at the same time protecting the long-standing multi-generational families that have made Riverside a unique neighborhood for many years.
What's key, in your view, what is key to this project being a success?
I think it's the commitment of the city, along with the state and all of our corporate partners. The leadership of 16 Tech has been magnificent. This building will now be occupied by IBRI, the Indiana Business Research Institute. It will be occupied by the Central Indiana Community Partnership. I think the IU School of Medicine will have some space here. So it's really an opportunity for this entire community to come together in very meaningful ways.
One of the signature pieces of the 16 Tech project is a planned $14.5 million bridge that will span Fall Creek and link the Innovation Campus with neighborhoods, trails, IUPUI, and the IU School of Medicine. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redman has the story on how the project is shaping what the city's near west side will look like in years to come.
Intentional communication, lasting transformation. For the last 3 years, leaders of 16 Tech have made it their priority to include area neighborhoods in the development process of the $500 million urban innovation district that could prove to be the most transformative project in the city's history.
The one thing that I can say about 16 Tech is they communicate. They keep an open line of communication, and that's very important to a neighborhood who is hesitant about change. There's one person, she has been the boots on the ground, teaching us about what's going on with the buildings. She is really the true hero.
That hero is Starla Hart, 16 Tech's Director of Community Initiatives. It's Hart's job to make sure the economic benefits of the 16 Tech Innovation District will extend to neighboring communities.
We're really trying to make sure that we touch the people. We find them where they are and meet them where they are and figure out how we can both participate in this opportunity that 16 Tech presents.
And one could argue perhaps those benefiting the most from 16 Tech will be the residents of the near west and near northwest sides of Indianapolis, given the project is expected to generate nearly 3,000 jobs over the next 10 years.
There are definitely going to be positions that are entry or mid-skill level that folks can very well qualify for. I definitely say yes, there's a spot if you wanted to work in STEM, but also remembering that the district is multi-use and that there's going to be a hotel and restaurants and small business retail. There's going to be a vast amount of opportunity for people to plug in wherever they want to.
Later this year, 16 Tech will roll out its K-12 education and workforce development strategy.
Making sure that the young people are successful and that we provide them with the STEM and STEAM-based enrichment programs that will help lead them on a path to possible STEM career or STEM business of their own. In terms of the workforce pieces, we kind of took some time last year to gain a better understanding of where people are now so that we can figure out which training programs, certifications, additional supports that families may need in order for the adults that are in the neighborhood to really upskill and achieve job opportunities in the district.
And 16 Tech isn't only helping Central Indiana bridge the skills gap. The nonprofit organization is building an actual bridge that will span Fall Creek and link the 50-acre downtown district with surrounding neighborhoods.
The bridge will literally bridge us together in more than one way, physically and mentally. It will have an impact on our children. 16 Tech has absolutely inspired them. They understand the importance of what's happening here.
Hart's biggest hope for 16 Tech moving forward?
Create an inclusive economy. So we want to make sure that there's diversity in terms of the business owners that are there, that there's diversity in terms of the folks that are working on site, that we have real people with real jobs and real opportunities. At the end of this, that would mark its success.
It will start to compete with Indianapolis being the sports town. That's the impact that I think that 16 Tech will have here, is that we'll become a technology town. This will be the place to come. Instead of all of the college graduates leaving, I think they'll begin to stay because they'll have places of employment, opportunity, careers that they can find right here at home.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
The Indiana Biosciences Research Institute will soon be relocating its headquarters to the new 16 Tech Innovation Building 1. The nonprofit Research Institute connects university investigators to life sciences companies to spark innovations. IBRI Operations and Lab Facilities Manager Natalie Stoll joined Kylie Valletta in the business of health.
Well, let's start first with your new home. You're just weeks away from moving into your new headquarters here at 16 Tech. Why is 16 Tech's mission a good fit for IBRI?
So IBRI's mission is really to become the leading industry-inspired research institute. We're really focused on Indiana residents and their health issues. And so with that, there's, three parts that I can tell you right away, or three words I can say is innovation, talent, and really collaboration too. And innovation is of course 16 Tech's. It's the mission, and so it's putting us here and putting us right here in the middle of where we need to be with our partners. And talent is another one. With this new building and with all of the parts of the hub, innovation hub next door, it's really going to help us to bring that talent here to Indianapolis. And with this new building, we can really show off kind of our space that we're going to have for those new investigators and new companies. And finally, collaboration. IBRI wants to really be the collaborator of all of our partners, of IU Health, Riley, the VA, also Lilly being right here in town too. And this is the perfect hub and middle of all of that.
And your the heart of your work is laboratory work, and that's a big feature of this. Your current lab space is individual labs, but when you move here, you're going to have an open lab concept.
Yes.
Tell me the excitement of that.
So we're pretty excited about that. So we have an open lab concept. We have smaller lab support rooms that can be separate, but it's really a large open space. The utilities will be in the ceiling, so it really gives us flexibility. It's all about flexibility today, and our lab benches are going to be movable, so we can put them semi-permanently in place, but then later in a year or two we can move them. We, in science, wall space happens to be, where you want to put all of your centrifuges and all of the refrigerators and freezers. And with this open lab concept and with the utilities in the ceiling, that isn't needed. We can place all of that anywhere we want.
And you mentioned this lab space is really needed in Indianapolis, these biology-based labs. You only have 4 small companies in your current space, but you're hoping to grow that to 8 or 9. Just a few seconds left, but tell us what type of partners you're looking for.
So we're looking for entrepreneurs and biology-based companies that will need, for instance, Indianapolis hardly has any space that would have an autoclave or have tissue culture rooms or maybe a microscope room. And we have all of that. It's not just the companies, but we have a lot of equipment that we can share with them and help them grow their companies as well, and then collaborate with them and with our projects and their projects together.
That's fantastic. Well, I've been covering RBRI for a lot of years. I can't wait to see what happens here. So congratulations on the new space.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
We're really looking forward to moving in.
Thank you.
Former Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard played a key role in making 16 Tech a reality. He joined Gary Dick to talk about the early planning days.
This is a project that has spanned a number of administrations. As you reflect back in your administration, this was something that was kind of on the books, but in a sense on the shelf at that time.
Yeah, it was kind of on the shelf. The Peterson administration kind of conceived of it, and it was kind of sitting there. When in 2009 we decided to look at that and say, hey, what can we do with this thing? And we started something called the Life Sciences Task Force, and started talking about it. They briefed me, I think, in 2010 or so. And then they just continued to develop it. And a lot of people don't know that the old Busch Stadium was really a part of this and part of the early development of all this.
And then a key moment too was getting the bonds that really helped to make this.
Yeah, we got the bonds in the last part of 2015, the $55 million of TIF bonds, which were critical. But before that, as we were studying it, and putting the pieces together, getting the task force together, and we started buying up land in 13 and 14 and started rezoning a lot of the property for 13 and 14, getting ready for this thing to when it could really start to take off. And that $55 million in the TIF bonds in late 2015, I think were absolutely critical and allowed the Hogshead administration to continue forward with this. And now it looks pretty good.
Well, you had to be excited about this vision at the time and what it could mean, especially as it relates to talent attraction and retention.
Yeah, so much of what we did, you probably heard me say this before, and everything we did was for talent attraction. You have to look at that and bring people in. And this was, when we decided to move forward with this, we were deep into the recession, and people forget that. And there were a lot of people telling us, you sure? We didn't need to do this, need to do that. But you always have to look long term, and I like to think that we always looked long term, because you can see what can happen with this. Something, the innovation aspect of this, the IBRI being the anchor tenant, if you will, and so many other people coming in is very dramatic. And you never know where this thing is going to go. But these sorts of things, if they're done correctly, and it looks like this one is going to be done correctly, is going to attract talent on a level, and you really don't know where it's going to go. I mean, so many partners will probably come in the years ahead, and I think that's the really exciting part.
Well, and as you look at the potential going forward, that near northwest side and beyond corridor has the ability to really change.
Yeah, I always thought the near northwest side and on out was something that was a little bit underutilized, and I always talk about there's great topography in this area. Going out toward where I used to live on West 56th Street from downtown, the topography of the near northwest side is tremendous. And a lot of opportunity for things to go in there that could be extremely innovative and beautiful, frankly. And so that's why I'm happy that this is really developing, and it really looks like it's going to be something very, very special.
Another major component of 16 Tech is HQO, located in the former Indianapolis Water Company headquarters. It will include a makerspace, an artisan marketplace, and a food hall. Artisan Marketplace project lead Craig Baker tells us he thinks it has the potential to become a hotspot.
Our goal is to be the living room for the neighborhood, right? We're developing an area of some shipping containers over here. I'm hoping to have a grocery presence. So you'll be able to pick up lunch, pick up dinner, go home. If you have a late meeting coming out of Indianapolis, you can stop here. We'll have plenty of parking, meet with people in the building, have the meeting, grab dinner, go home. If you run a little late because you have a beer or two after your meeting, it's fine. You're going home with everything you need. So.
And talk about demand, because the restaurant business is always tough and competitive, but you've got some pretty strong demand in terms of people who want to be here.
Yeah, so coming out of the gate, I was a little bit nervous, but what we're seeing is people getting the idea of large spaces. Social distancing won't be a problem here. This is 40,000 square feet. So we're going to have tables and chairs spread all over. I'm waiting to find out what our final occupancy is, but to have events here, we can social distance, it's not a problem. So I think that people see the fact that we're centrally located on the north side. Third-party delivery systems are going to be very important for, running, to-go food, and then we're walkable. We're completely walkable to everyone in the neighborhood, and we're surrounded by apartments in high density. So I think it's a good location to be a community center and to really develop that sense for the entire district.
Do you see the possibility you're going to have restaurants, you've got a bar and some other locations here, but do you see the opportunity for maybe even a food incubator for food entrepreneurs to be part of this?
So yeah, that's on the agenda. We're developing a couple different models, whether it's in the sense that we have a pop-up kitchen for short term, you want to develop a new concept, even if you're an established restaurateur, or if you want to try to take your hand at a brick and mortar transitioning from a food truck into a restaurant, that'll be available. And then we have a couple other concepts that are in the works in conjunction with the food truck kitchen or community kitchen that we'll have in place.
Craig, you're a consultant. You've been involved in the restaurant business for a long time. This has to be one of the more unique projects you've been involved with. Does that excite you?
Yeah, it's definitely the most exciting thing I've done. And on top of it, it's I couldn't do anything more involved with the city and the community. I see it to be a huge potential for me, like as a rewarding on a personal level, not just as a business, level. So, I think we're building something really special here, and it's something that no one's ever seen before in the city for sure.
The makerspace inside the Innovation Hub will be called Machine and is being developed by Executive Director Alex Bandar, one of the pioneers in the national maker community. He is a veteran in the makerspace world and joined us to talk about why he chose 16 Tech as his newest venture.
What is a makerspace?
Yeah, that's a great question. They're, I think, amazing places which have tools, which have people, which have community, where if you've got an idea for a piece of art, an innovative product, or business, we can help you make it.
And talk about how you got into this makerspace business, if you will, because you're developing makerspaces in multiple locations around the country, but you got inspiration from your sister, right?
Yeah, my own background is engineering, and that made me think I was pretty good at making things. But my sister is an artist and a sculptor, and she really showed me up when she proved to be a much better welder, machinist, blacksmith, and maker than I was. If I had an idea, I could write a computer program. If she had an idea, she just made the darn thing.
Should actually make it. Okay, give us an idea. What is Machine? What is it going to be like here in the Innovation Hub? What kind of makerspace is going to really unfold here?
Sure. So when people talk about makerspaces, they often think about the tools and the clubhouse community, but I think it's much more than that. It's really the sentiment that if you have an idea, you've got a supportive group of people behind you to help you make it. Whether it's, like I said, an art project, a prototype for a new business, a piece of furniture, or even a web app or a business.
Who will be attracted here? What kind of folks we're going to want to take advantage of this space?
Yeah, we're especially well suited to help people who have an idea for a product-based business. So if you have that next widget that's going to save the world, we're a great place to prototype that and launch that. But we're also a great place for kids to come for STEM programming, or if you're a member of the community in the neighborhood, come by and take a welding class, see if you like to weld. Take a coding class, see if you like to write software.
Yeah. Give us an idea, final question for you, and that's the unique setup here with Machine. It's going to be part of the Innovation Hub, but it's going to include so many things. There's going to be a synergy here, a food court, all kinds of things going on.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really unique things about Machine that attracted me to the project, that it's not just a makerspace with our business, but we're right next to a flexible office space called 1776, which is very business supportive and helpful, and right next to the artisan marketplace. So if you want to be refreshed, grab a beer, grab some food, listen to some music, we're a one-stop shop for, I think, exciting innovation.
Very good. Alex Bandar is the Executive Director of Machine, the makerspace that will unfold here at the Innovation Hub. Alex, thanks for joining us. Look forward to following the progress here.
Thank you.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Racial tensions and the push for social justice over the past few months have presented employers with an opportunity to grow by having difficult but meaningful conversations about biases and race in the workplace. How do employers establish best practices to keep the dialogue moving forward? Ice Miller associate Charles Bush II came on the show with perspective.
First of all, I want to get your perspective because as an African American, you found yourself in a unique position as events began to unfold and you were advising clients on racial bias issues and other issues related to that. Give us your perspective on what that process was like as things began to unfold.
Right. As things began to unfold, I was like many people, looking at social media, watching the news, and I saw the anger and the outrage across the country and across the world, really. And then I thought to myself that many of these people that were protesting, that were angry, if they were lucky enough to still have their job during the COVID-19 pandemic, they were going to work and they were still angry and they were still mad and still traumatized. So I thought, what are employers doing at this point in time to help those employees? So I found myself in a unique situation where I was, one, an African-American man, and then two, an attorney that advises businesses and employers on employee-related issues. So I thought an article just speaking to employers about a little bit about education about what people may be going through, and then a little bit about some practical steps that they can take to help employees was warranted.
Yeah, Charles, talk about, because employers of all sizes, large and small, are dealing with these issues, and it's really an opportunity, I think many think, to address these issues. As you look at things that companies should be thinking about as they address potential racial bias and other issues in the workplace, what are a couple of the things they really should keep in mind?
I think they should keep in mind, one, that this issue is really about human beings that are coming to the workplace that are not feeling great right now. And how can they help those employees? How can they help those employees be productive? How can they help those employees' morale stay high? Because if they're not productive and they have poor employee morale, that affects the workplace. And I think they can also think about what they can do to root out racial intolerance inside the workplace. And that can be issues or things that they can address from the hiring process and to the process for when people are inside the workplace, whether that's through promotions or financial incentives. How can they root out this racial intolerance or just problems with diversity within the workplace? So those are just a couple of things that employers should look at doing.
As we wrap up, Charles, in your view, do you think employers are really going to use this opportunity to make substantive change? Everybody's talking about it, but in terms of real change in the workplace, do you think this is that moment in time where things really happen?
Well, I certainly hope so. I will say that I have seen many companies make statements and put out statements against racial injustice in the workplace and in the community. And if employers really commit to what they have said they will do, I think it can make a change, and I certainly hope it will. Otherwise, it may appear to be a trend which would discourage many employees in the future.
Charles Bush II is an associate at Ice Miller. Charles, thanks for being on the show. Great perspective on addressing race relations in the workplace, certainly issues that are not going to go away anytime soon and are really in the forefront now. Appreciate the time.
Great. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it.
And finally this week, some of the top chefs from across the globe brought their cooking talents to Indianapolis last week to compete in one of the world's largest food sport events. The 8th annual World Food Championships is the latest example of Indiana emerging as a culinary hotspot. Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch and Team Indiana and Culinary Crossroads Director Larry Dickerson joined us with more.
This food championship, this is the Super Bowl, if you will, of this competition, 8th annual event. Why is it important, in your view, that Indianapolis and Indiana host this event in terms of showcasing our culinary expertise?
Well, our Culinary Crossroads initiative is a public-private partnership to really showcase the food experience here, not only in central Indiana, but throughout all of Indiana. We have such a rich experience and so many, 15,000 independent restaurants here in the state of Indiana. We have an incredible story to tell here in Indiana, but we aren't very intentional about telling it. Our Culinary Crossroads initiative is about how we can tell that story and attract talent to Indiana. Because when corporations are looking at attracting talent to Indiana, many of that and much of that talent comes from the East and West Coast. And we want to showcase that Indiana has every bit, if not more, of the food experience than our East and West Coast neighbors.
Yeah, the talent attraction piece, very important. Larry, talk about this event. Give us a thumbnail sketch of what it is. Going to be on the Cooking Channel. It's going to get some high-profile attention. Talk about what we'll see this weekend.
You're going to see the cream of the crop. It started with 1,500 home cook chefs and professional barbecue teams that were on 500 teams that were down competing in Dallas last fall. All of them had to go through a tough competition. They came out of there as category champions, put $10,000 into their pocket, and then qualified to come here to Indianapolis. They're going to have 3 rounds that started on Saturday. And the first round will get it down to 5. Those 5 will have to go and see a tasting with Chef Greg Hardesty, one of our many talented chefs. He'll prepare a dish for them, an Indiana duck product that he'll use. Then they have to come back the next morning on Sunday morning and had to recreate that for Chef Hardesty. He'll be one of 5 judges along with Terry Tucker from Maple Leaf Farms. That gets it down to 3. At that time, Gary, that's when the public will not know anymore, because the reality TV show, when those last 3 go in there behind closed doors, that person will get crowned as the world food champion, and they'll take home a $100,000 payday.
Wow.
So it's going to be very, very exciting.
A lot of activity. I'm sure the smells and the sights are going to be really, really intense as well. As we wrap up, Governor, this, again, a chance to put Indiana on a more global stage. And that talent piece is really important as you look to try to keep talent here, but also attract talent from other places.
Absolutely. Well said, Gary. I couldn't say it better myself.
All right, very good. Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, Larry Dickerson as well. The World Food Championship Final Table Indy is going to take place this weekend and put a lot of focus on Indiana. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.